I want to start today with a thought that, honestly, it just stopped me cold when I was going through the materials for today's deep dive.
Oh, yeah. Which part?
Well, think about this scenario for a second. We have spent the last few decades building the absolute most advanced, sophisticated communication network in human history, right?
Right, absolutely.
I mean, we've laid millions of miles of fiber optic cables across the ocean floor. We've launched fleets of satellites into orbit. We've put a literal supercomputer in every single person's pocket.
Yeah, a massive technological achievement.
Exactly. And the stated, heavily advertised goal of all this immense effort was ultimate human connection.
Right, bringing the world closer together.
But somehow, the finished product, the way we actually use it today, is essentially a machine designed to help us actively avoid talking to each other.
It is the great paradox of our time, for sure.
It really is. So we're looking at a fascinating stack of neurobiology papers, behavioral psychology research, and some incredibly incisive essays on digital culture today. And the mission for this deep dive is to understand why our digital tools are actively changing our emotional resilience, and more importantly for you listening, how we can actually get it back.
Which is a crucial conversation to have right now.
Okay, let's unpack this, because it would be, so incredibly easy to just sit here and bash screens, right? We've all heard the lecture about how phones are bad and social media is ruining society.
Right, and that surface level critique is everywhere.
Yeah.
And frankly, it misses the actual mechanism at play.
Yeah, it's too simple.
Exactly. We aren't going to spend time today just complaining about the existence of screens. The focus needs to be on the underlying brain science.
The actual biology of it.
Yes, the deep evolutionary wiring that makes avoiding each other not just a bad modern habit, but something that feels like a biological imperative when we are holding a smartphone.
So, to understand why we use all this miraculous technology just to hide from each other, we first have to look at the ancient hardware running our brains. Specifically, what happens when we are under stress, right?
Right. And the research points directly to the amygdala.
The alarm system.
Exactly. For anyone unfamiliar, this is a tiny almond-shaped cluster of nuclei deep in the brain. And its entire job, its only functional purpose, is to act as an alarm system.
It exists to scream danger when life gets threatening.
Yes. It operates like a highly sensitive smoke detector. But it's important to understand how powerful it is. When the alarm goes off, the brain doesn't just passively listen to it.
Wait, I want to make sure I'm getting the mechanics of this right. It physically alters how we process thoughts, doesn't it?
It fundamentally reorganizes your brain's resources in real time.
Wow.
Yeah. When you experience chronic stress, that smoke detector becomes hyperactivated. And the critical biological mechanism here is about resource allocation.
Because the brain takes a lot of energy to run.
A massive amount. It requires enormous amounts of energy, glucose, oxygen. So when the amygdala detects a threat, it begins hoarding those resources.
Like a survival mechanism.
Exactly. And while it is screaming and monopolizing the brain's energy, it is actively and quietly starving the prefrontal cortex.
Which is the logic center.
Right. The prefrontal cortex is the evolutionarily newer part of your brain. It sits right behind your forehead, and it is the region entirely responsible for logic, patience, long-term perspective, and emotional regulation.
So it's the adult in the car.
I love that analogy, yes.
It's the part of your brain that tells you to, take a breath and maybe not send that aggressive, all caps text message at 11 o'clock at night.
Right, is the brake pedal for your impulses. But when life gets hard or stressful, your biology dictates a specific response.
Yeah.
Your brain essentially hands the steering wheel over to its dumbest, loudest, most reactive passenger, the amygdala.
And forces the adult in the car to go take a nap in the backseat.
Literally. The blood flow physically shifts. Under stress, your capacity for nuanced judgment just goes offline.
And your pure panic gets dialed up to an 11.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a vital distinction to make for anyone listening is that this reaction is not a character flaw.
Right, it's not a weakness.
No, it is not a sign of mental weakness at all. This is your biological wiring operating exactly, flawlessly, as it was designed to.
But, and here's the catch from the reading, that wiring evolved for a world entirely different from ours.
Very different.
It evolved for a world with real physical dangers in it. Like, it evolved for a world with literal bears.
Yes, the grizzly bear scenario.
Right. Think about the logic there. If you were being chased through the woods by a grizzly bear, you do not need logic.
You don't need nuance.
No, you don't need long-term perspective, and you certainly don't need to, debate the bear's point of view.
You just need pure panic and adrenaline to pump into your legs so you can run away fast.
So what does this all mean when we take that highly reactive, ancient, bear-avoiding hardware and we plug it into the modern high-speed internet?
Where we get a complete collision of evolutionary timelines. The internet radically rewrites the rules of social interaction in a way that our brains simply have no natural defense against.
Because it's completely unnatural.
Entirely. Consider the physical world, the environment our nervous systems spent millions of years adapting to. In the physical offline world, there is no neat button.
Right, there is no block feature in real life.
Exactly. If you are in an office and a coworker's tone is aggressive or dismissive to you on a Tuesday morning,
Yeah.
you cannot simply delete their avatar from your physical reality.
You have to keep showing up to the meeting.
You do.
You have to physically sit across the conference table from that person on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday.
And you have to navigate the tension in the room. You have to feel the awkwardness, process the physiological discomfort in your chest, and basically figure out a way forward.
Because in the physical world, friction is guaranteed.
It's unavoidable. You are forced to develop a tolerance for discomfort. But online, we have engineered an entirely frictionless reality.
Which feels amazing at first.
Of course it does. Because human beings naturally dislike that physiological tension, we retreat to the digital world, where we can build a perfectly curated little kingdom for ourselves.
An environment where absolutely no one has to disagree with you.
Exactly. Discomfort isn't something you are forced to sit with and process anymore. Discomfort is just a setting you can toggle off with a swipe, a click, or a block.
Okay, wait, let me push back on this on behalf of the listener.
Please do.
Because I can absolutely hear someone thinking, hold on, isn't curating our feeds and blocking toxic people just a healthy practice?
That's a very common defense.
Right. Like, isn't that just protecting our peace and maintaining boundary? I mean, why should we voluntarily subject ourselves to things that upset us or stress us out if we don't have to?
That's a fair question.
But as I say that out loud, I'm thinking about the piano analogy from the behavioral research we reviewed, and it actually answers my own question beautifully.
I'd love to hear how you connect those dots.
Well, the research talks about muscle memory, right? If you are an expert pianist, but you completely stop practicing for 2 whole years, you can't just sit down at a grand piano one day and expect to play a flawless concerto.
No, of course not.
Your brain might conceptually remember what a C minor chord is, and you might intellectually know how the song goes, but your hands have become total strangers to the keys.
We're out of practice.
Exactly. Your fingers are stiff, they fumble, you've lost the physical dexterity because the muscle memory has faded. You protected your hands from the friction of the keys, but you lost the ability to play.
What's fascinating here is how seamlessly that translates to the neurology of emotional regulation.
How so?
Well, confrontation, sitting in tension, processing a disagreement. These are not innate traits that you just have or don't have. They are active skills.
Like playing the piano.
Exactly like playing the piano. They require neural pathways that must be maintained. When we constantly curate our digital spaces to eliminate all discomfort, we are refusing to practice our emotional piano.
Oh, wow. So we think we are exercising freedom.
But we are actually experiencing atrophy. We have entirely outsourced our emotional regulation to external algorithms.
I can give you a painfully relatable example of this.
Let's hear it.
I caught myself the other day drafting a text message to a friend about a minor misunderstanding, and I sat on my couch, typed out a sentence, deleted it, rewrote it to sound less aggressive, deleted it again, and literally spent 45 minutes managing this tiny conflict from the absolute safety of my screen.
45 minutes for one text.
Yes. I was terrified of just calling them and letting a messy, unedited conversation happen in real time.
That perfectly illustrates the outsourced regulation. A bad feeling comes up. Maybe it's anxiety about a misunderstanding, a pang of loneliness, or just a frustrating thought. Instead of letting the body process that feeling, what is the modern default reflex? We pull out the phone and we scroll until the bad feeling goes away.
The feed manages our mood for us.
Precisely. We are relying on an external machine to act as a pacifier for our internal state.
And because we rely on the algorithm to soothe us, our own internal soothing mechanisms literally rust away.
They do. Which brings us to the very real, very dangerous real-world consequences. We become completely out of practice.
So when a normal, everyday, face-to-face disagreement happens, say, a friend just says, actually, I see this entirely differently than you do.
Our out-of-practice amygdala completely misreads the situation.
Right, because we haven't given our brain any recent practice in surviving mild social tension.
We haven't played the emotional piano. So our alarm system treats a friend having a different opinion as if we were being hunted across an open field by a predator.
That is wild.
The system short circuits. And this loss of our confrontation muscle fundamentally alters how we handle uncomfortable truths across the board.
Because we literally lack the neurological stamina to handle the friction of disagreement.
Exactly. So we begin to rely heavily on external validation. We start preferring a comfortable illusion over a difficult reality.
And that leads right into the deeper danger of this whole frictionless ecosystem. People talk endlessly about the dopamine loops of social media.
The addictive little chemical hits of getting a like or a comment.
Right. But a psychological research we were looking at pushes way past that surface level observation. The dopamine hit isn't the worst part of all this. The absolute worst part is the fantasy.
The fantasy of the flawless self.
Yes.
The internet allows you to construct, edit, and project a highly curated version of your identity, a version that receives constant, measurable applause.
And if you have a digital version of yourself that is being validated constantly by hundreds of people, you are completely shielded from the brutal, unglamorous, often painful work of actual introspection.
Why would you ever do the hard, humbling work of looking inward, admitting your genuine flaws, and putting in the miserable effort to change?
When you can just post a witty observation online and immediately get 80 likes that confirm you are brilliant and perfect exactly as you are.
Exactly. The applause becomes an anesthesia. It literally numbs the exact emotional discomfort that is biologically required for any real personal growth to happen.
Growth requires the friction.
It always has, which raises an incredibly important question about the limits of this digital shield. What happens when we inevitably face an uncomfortable truth in our offline lives?
Because the internet can't intercept everything.
No, it can't. Suppose your relationship is failing, or your career is stalling, or, deep down in your gut, that you were entirely the problem in a recent argument.
Which happens to all of us.
Right. What do we do when that stark reality breaches the walls of our curated fantasy?
Well, according to the research, we go shopping for comfort.
That phrase is brilliant.
That is the specific terminology used in the psychological essays, and it hurts because it is so incredibly accurate.
It really is.
When faced with an uncomfortable truth about ourselves, we use resources and we use other people to escape it.
Let's put a real-world scenario to this.
Okay, let's say you snap at your partner over something incredibly trivial. Deep down, you know you are completely in the wrong. You feel that awful, sinking pit of guilt in your stomach.
The alarm is going off.
Yes. But instead of sitting in that awful feeling, walking into the other room and doing the hard work of apologizing, you use a resource to numb it.
You pull out your phone and buy something online.
Right. You book a weekend trip, you order an expensive dinner. You are literally purchasing a distraction to avoid accountability.
And using other people as a distraction is arguably even more insidious than using financial resources.
Oh, you mean assembling the little jury?
Exactly, that concept.
I mean, that part blew my mind.
It's something everyone does. Instead of reflecting on your actions and asking if you might be the problem, you immediately text 3 specific friends.
But you don't text the friends who hold you accountable.
No, you text the 3 specific people who you know for an absolute fact will take your side no matter what.
The ones who will say, you're totally right, they're toxic.
Right. You aren't asking them for an objective perspective or the truth. You are assembling a little jury that has already decided the verdict in your favor.
You are actively shopping for comfort to protect your fragile ego.
And the internet makes this safe place completely infinite.
You don't even need to bother calling those 3 real-life friends anymore.
No, the algorithm is perfectly designed to provide 1,000 strangers ready to agree with you on demand.
It's terrifying.
No matter what your specific dysfunction is, you can find an entire community online dedicated to telling you that your flaw is actually a virtue.
Which brings us to a very old, very famous idiom, ignorance is bliss.
A classic.
People say this all the time, usually with a shrug, as a kind of joke about not wanting to know bad news. But the research argues that ignorance is bliss has essentially become the core operational strategy of our modern lives.
It's just the polite, socially acceptable name for this frictionless, safe place we've built.
It is the fortress where uncomfortable truths cannot reach you, so your amygdala never has to sound the alarm.
But here's the problem. The brain's alarm system is fundamentally misrouting the situation.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We think the danger is the conflict, right?
Right. We think the bear is the person disagreeing with us. or the tension in the room.
But the research makes a profound flip here. The person disagreeing with you is not the bear.
No.
The bear is the true thing about yourself or your life or your choices that you are desperately trying not to look at.
That is the crucial insight that shifts the entire paradigm. We misidentify the threat, we file uncomfortable truth under mortal danger, and we run away into our digital safe places.
We use our financial resources, our little juries, and our curated feeds to hide from reality.
But while we are hiding in this infinite safe place, feeling completely secure, the actual threat, the real problem causing the dysfunction in your life, is completely ignored.
And the truth doesn't just politely pack up and go away because you put your phone on Do Not Disturb and scrolled through a feed for 3 hours.
It doesn't care about your feed.
No. The truth just stands there in the real world, compounding. Ignorance is bliss right up until the exact moment the bill comes due.
And that bill always comes due.
And the terrifying part of the psychological mechanism is that the longer you sit in that frictionless, safe place, mistaking the truth for danger, the bigger that bill is going to be when reality finally forces you to pay it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the behavioral science makes a very careful, very important distinction here that we need to emphasize for you.
What's that?
We are not experiencing this societal-level emotional atrophy because human beings are inherently weak or naturally flawed.
This isn't some moral styling of the modern generation.
Exactly. We are not getting softer because we are broken. We are getting softer because we intentionally engineered an environment that removed all the friction.
We basically built a massive state-of-the-art gym with absolutely no weights in it.
That is the perfect way to look at it.
And now we are walking around wondering why we are losing all our muscle mass.
Friction is the only biological mechanism that builds strength. Think about lifting weights. It is the physical resistance against the muscle fibers that causes them to tear and grow back stronger.
No resistance, no muscle.
If you take away the resistance, the muscle has absolutely nothing to push against, and your body, being highly efficient, quietly dismantles it.
It's just atrophies.
We built a frictionless digital world on purpose, as a convenience. And the biological side effect is that our nervous systems feel incredibly fragile when faced with the slightest real-world pushback.
So, if a frictionless world caused the atrophy, logic dictates that the only way to rebuild our emotional muscle is to intentionally, deliberately reintroduce friction into our lives.
There is no other way.
And the source material actually provides a cure for this atrophy. But I have to warn you, it is annoyingly, frustratingly simple.
It's the last thing people want to do.
The prescription is this. Have the hard conversation in person.
In person, face to face, sharing the same physical space.
But there is a massive catch to this prescription. You have to do it without an exit strategy.
And the lack of an exit strategy is the active ingredient in the cure.
What exactly counts as an exit strategy?
An exit strategy is anything that allows you to pause the tension. It means no block button. It means no saying, let me circle back to this on a messaging app tomorrow.
It means you don't get to sit on your couch for an hour drafting the perfect, watertight text message.
Right, editing it to ensure you look flawless and hitting send only when you feel perfectly safe. It means you have to be in the room, breathing the same air, looking the other person in the eye, and letting the messy, unedited, highly awkward conversation happen in real time.
You have to be uncomfortable on purpose.
Completely on purpose.
You have to risk being told no to your face. You have to risk being told you're wrong without the ability to instantly mute the person saying it.
And that is terrifying for people.
I know for a fact that just hearing me describe that scenario is making some of you listening right now feel actual physiological dread.
Your stomach might be tightening. Your heart rate might be elevating slightly.
Your brain is already screaming, get me out of here. I don't want to do that. So let me ask this. If my brain is reacting that violently with actual physical symptoms to the mere idea of a hard conversation, doesn't that mean something is fundamentally wrong? Shouldn't I listen to that biological instinct telling me to run?
It is completely logical that your brain interprets that dread as a warning sign, but the neurology offers a profound reassurance here.
Okay.
That dread you are feeling is not a sign that something is wrong. That dread is the physical sign that the cure is working.
Wow, really?
Yes. The hatred of the situation, the visceral discomfort in your chest, the overwhelming urge to flee the room, that is the resistance. That is the literal weight on the bar.
Wow. So the dread itself is the workout.
Precisely. If the conversation felt easy and comfortable, you wouldn't be building any new neural pathways. Every single time you force yourself to sit in that discomfort, every time you have the hard conversation without an exit strategy, and you physically live through it, you are actively reprogramming your amygdala.
You're training the smoke detector.
You are giving your nervous system empirical proof of survival. You are teaching your broken smoke detector, hey, look around. We survived. This social tension is not a grizzly bear. We are entirely safe.
You are manually taking the steering wheel back from the panic center.
And putting the adult back in the driver's seat.
That is just incredible. So, what does this all mean for us today as we log off and go back to our actual lives? What are the big takeaways we need to carry forward?
There's a lot to process.
For me, the biggest shift is how we view that feeling of tension in our chest. We have to stop treating discomfort like it is a malfunction in our lives.
It is not a bug.
Right. A hard conversation isn't a bug in the system of your day. It is the point of the day. The resistance is where the emotional growth actually happens. The avoidance is the actual bear, and the safe place is the trap.
And ignorance was never bliss. It was just a delayed bill.
Exactly. And before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you go about your week. Think about a difficult conversation you have been actively putting off right now. You know the exact one I'm talking about.
We all have one.
Now ask yourself, are you actually afraid of the conflict itself? Or are you secretly terrified that your confrontation muscle has atrophied so much in our frictionless world that you simply won't survive the tension?
That's the real question.
If the resistance is the only thing that builds the muscle, what happens to your life and who do you become if you never pick up that weight again?
Just remember, despite what your nervous system is telling you in those moments of panic, you absolutely have the biological capacity to survive the friction. The muscle is still there. It just needs to be used.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Go find some friction out there.